was trying to be tough and fight through it, but then basically I wasn't as capable of doing what I would normally was. So when I wasn't performing on the field, that's when it really started going downhill. It's like, I can tough it out. I don't care. I'm not going to complain about it. Like, everybody's banged up. Like, I play quarterback. I don't get hit nearly as much as these guys that literally smash somebody every play. I have no reason to complain. But then when it started hindering my play and it going downhill, and that's when I started losing my own self-confidence and just losing myself. This past year was rough.
Since the last time we made a video on Baker Mayfield on the day of the NFL draft, a lot of brand new details have come out about him. Whether it's the fact that those close to Baker Mayfield believe that the Cleveland Browns intentionally sabotaged him, yes, that's actually a headline, to the fact that there's no one in the NFL that wants to trade for him, and as a result of that, they are essentially playing a gigantic game of chicken with Baker Mayfield. A lot of news came out in regards to Baker, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I had to sift through over the past 24 hours, and I'm going to condense all of that information for you guys into the most important parts for you to consume in this video. Before we get to the content, I want to remind you guys that on May 15th, we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. In addition to this, we began live streaming on twitch.tv/TF Microphone. So if you want to come by and just chat with me, that's the best place to do it. We don't really have that gigantic of a following there in comparison to my YouTube, so it allows for more intimate conversation. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, you have to admit that the Baker Mayfield situation is a situation that I don't think we've seen in the NFL. A team that drafted Baker Mayfield with the #1 overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft that was probably their best quarterback since the days of Bernie Kosar, that actually yielded them a playoff victory versus a division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And 1 year later, after an injury-riddled season, the Cleveland Browns are attempting to move on from him. What's even crazier about this is some members of Baker Mayfield's camp actually believe that the Cleveland Browns are attempting to sabotage him. And at first when I looked at this headline, I kind of scoffed, but they actually provide a pretty interesting argument. The article opens up by saying that relations between Cleveland and Baker Mayfield have been strained since Cleveland began pursuing Deshaun Watson. In a recent ESPN story, the organization chose to head in a different direction due to Mayfield's 2021 struggles. Because of the Browns courting of former Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield requested a trade, though Cleveland said it was not willing to accommodate his request. The Browns eventually would sign Deshaun Watson to a crazy 5-year, $230 million deal, presumably taking Mayfield's place as starting quarterback. Yeah, I'd assume that's correct. So what this article is pretty much saying is Baker Mayfield demanded a trade even when the Cleveland Browns were pursuing Deshaun Watson, in a situation where it didn't even seem likely that the Browns would get Deshaun Watson. And if you remember at the time, Baker Mayfield put out this long Instagram post thanking the city of Cleveland even before Deshaun Watson was signed. He didn't really demand a trade, but he said, clearly my future is a little bit in limbo, so I just want to take some time to thank the city of Cleveland, and I appreciate all that we've done together. Now, I do agree in a sense that the Cleveland Browns kind of fumbled this situation, not by signing Deshaun Watson, because whenever a player like Deshaun Watson is available and you can get yourself a guaranteed franchise QB that is clearly better than your current quarterback and you don't have to play quarterback roulette anymore, then you need to jump on that opportunity. There's no question that Deshaun Watson is several orders of magnitude better than Baker Mayfield. The type of offense that you could build around Deshaun Watson is significantly more versatile than the type of offense that you would build around Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson makes all of his teammates better, whether that's DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, or Brandon Cooks. There's no question in my mind that Deshaun Watson is not only a better player, but a significantly bigger upgrade over Baker Mayfield, and no one is debating that. But what I am debating here is the Cleveland Browns could have executed this in a better way. So on draft night, I'm sure you guys remember that the Arizona Cardinals traded for Marquise Hollywood Brown. The Cardinals only had to trade the 23rd pick in the first round of the 2022 NFL draft to the Baltimore Ravens and a 3rd round draft pick in order to get Marquise Brown in return to pair with Kyler Murray. Murray. At the time, we thought it was a cute story because, yeah, Marquise Brown is going to reunite with Kyler Murray, and just like they elevated each other to new heights when they were both in college on Oklahoma, they'll be able to do the same thing with the Arizona Cardinals. But there was a part of us that was thinking, the Arizona Cardinals have way too many receivers at this point. I mean, there's way too many options in this offense for everyone to eat. You have DeAndre Hopkins, you have AJ Green, you have now Hollywood Brown, you have Zach Ertz, Trey McBride was just drafted. It just didn't make a lot of sense to give up a first-round pick for another stud wide receiver in Hollywood Brown, although it's a great value, but at face value, you would think, don't the Arizona Cardinals have other needs? A few days later, after the Hollywood Brown trade happened, we discovered that DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. And at the same time, when you consider the fact that DeAndre Hopkins was dealing with a knee injury last year, this was a very good trade for the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. Now you might be wondering, Mike, why are you bringing this up? Well, when we went into the NFL draft, nobody knew about DeAndre Hopkins' situation. Nobody except the Arizona Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins' agent. As a matter of fact, Kyler Murray was in the dark about the potential trade for Marquise Hollywood Brown leading up to the NFL draft. And as much dysfunction that has been going on in the Arizona Cardinals front office, this is something that they executed to perfection. They hit how badly they needed a wide receiver, and they didn't give up their leverage as a result of it. And with the Cleveland Browns, I think they kind of fumbled the bag here. Yes, the pursuit of Deshaun Watson was very publicized. I mean, we knew everyone that was in the race for Deshaun Watson. But if you were going to make an offer that he couldn't refuse, you may have wanted to trade Baker Mayfield for maybe a second or third round pick earlier on in the offseason when there were significantly more teams that were in search of a quarterback. Now, you might be wondering, why is there such an emphasis on the fact that the Cleveland Browns hurt Baker Mayfield's value? Well, an Urban Meyer-esque article came out in regards to Baker Mayfield, and it's by Jake Trotter on ESPN. It's a remarkable read that if you guys have time to read it, I highly recommend you do, but there are specific parts in this article that really just stand out to us. Primarily, this part of the article gives an insight to how things were between Baker Mayfield and OBJ and how OBJ was perceived in the locker room in comparison to Baker Mayfield. Hours before the November 2nd trade deadline, Odell Beckham Jr.'s father posted a video on Instagram highlighting all the times last season Mayfield didn't throw Beckham's way or missed him when he was open. Odell Beckham Sr. trashed Mayfield in the comments as well. Okay, I don't mean to be that guy, but that's actually not what happened. There was another individual that compiled all the clips of Odell Beckham Jr. being missed by Baker Mayfield, and his dad did go ahead and comment on it. I don't mean to get compulsive about the details. We were just covering that extensively on this channel at the time that it went down. OBJ didn't disavow his father's comments publicly, or he didn't call or text Mayfield privately. According to multiple sources, even though they had often played video games together and had vacationed in Big Sky, Montana with teammates on Labor Day weekend, the Browns released OBJ on November 5th, clearing the way for him to sign with the Los Angeles Rams, with whom he'd go on to win a Super Bowl. Now, this part just gives you an idea of the type of person Odell Beckham Jr. is. Beckham, a former star with the New York Giants before joining Cleveland in a blockbuster trade in 2019, had become one of the most popular players in the Browns locker room. During his first training camp with Cleveland, Odell Beckham Jr. took undrafted rookie receiver Damon Shea Giuseppe under his wing. Before Cleveland's 2019 preseason opener, Shea Giuseppe misplaced his cleats, so Beckham gave him his, which Shea Giuseppe wore while returning a punt 86 yards for a touchdown. When Giuseppe was later cut before the season, he posted a heartfelt message about Odell Beckham Jr. onto social media, saying, "Appreciate all the love you showed me for real, forever grateful, love, heavy heart." That same training camp, Beckham carried over a custom from New York, sitting with different groups of players at each meal in the cafeteria. "You've got to know who you are battling with," Beckham said of the tradition. "When the whistle blows, it's just us out there. These are guys you'll forever remember and cherish." So it seems like OBJ understood what he meant to the Cleveland Browns locker room. And if you remember, man, from the very beginning when Jarvis Landry came to the Cleveland Browns, he gave this passionate speech about how they were going to turn around the culture of the Cleveland Browns during his first training camp there that was famously filmed on Hard Knocks. So I can imagine OBJ trying to contribute to that culture. This is his best friend. Now here's where it gets crazy. After Beckham's father ripped Mayfield publicly and speculated speculation grew about Beckham being on his way out, multiple players lobbied for Cleveland to keep OBJ on the team. John Johnson III said, "I feel like a majority of this locker room would love to have him in this building." As one source put it, the way Beckham exited Cleveland poisoned the well for Mayfield with some teammates. Shortly after Browns coach Kevin Stefanski announced Beckham wouldn't be coming back, another starter was asked if he'd seen the video Beckham Sr. had posted of Mayfield misfiring on throws to his son. "Why would I watch the video?" the player asked rhetorically. According to a source familiar with the remark, "I see it every day in practice." Bro, this is like some Urban Meyer type of stuff. I mean, literally, I feel like I'm reading Urban Meyer kicking Josh Lambo in training camp again.
He comes up to me and he says, "Hey, dip," another word, "make your effing kicks," and then proceeds to kick me right in the leg, right in the hamstring.
It gets even crazier. There's instances where Baker Mayfield was pointing fingers at each other. John Johnson and him didn't get along because on Christmas Day, after joining the Browns from the reserve COVID-19 list, Mayfield threw 4 interceptions in a loss at Green Bay that diminished Cleveland's playoff hopes. After Mayfield's second interception, Johnson, who was back in Cleveland on the reserve COVID-19 list, immediately tweeted, "Run the damn ball," and the tweet is still up to this day. The article continues to say that as Mayfield was beginning to lose confidence in himself, he had also begun losing faith in Stefanski. According to multiple sources, even though the two had thrived the year before during Cleveland's unexpected playoff run, that feeling escalated the next week on January 3rd during a Monday Night Football game in Pittsburgh. And what proved likely to be his final start for the Browns, Mayfield was sacked 9 times, and afterwards he called out Stefanski's game plan.
It wasn't you got TJ Watt over there and we're not giving our rookie tackle a whole lot of help. It's not going to be good for him. Obviously.
Now this is where it gets insane. According to multiple sources, those close to Mayfield, who to that point had missed 1 game because of his shoulder injury, wondered at the time if the Browns were trying to make Mayfield look as hapless as possible in primetime to potentially pave the way for the franchise to more easily explain why it might be moving on from him in the offseason. And the Browns, through a spokesman, declined to comment on those suspicions. This is where I draw the line. You're telling me that the Cleveland Browns wanted to sabotage the value of Baker Mayfield so they could rationalize moving on from him during the offseason? With all due respect, I mean, with Baker Mayfield's play throughout the year, yes, torn labrum, I understand. Yes, the greatest quarterback the Browns have ever had since Bernie Kosar, I agree. But if you just watch the man play, there were throws that he was supposed to be able to make that he was not able to make. There are moments where he was called to be a leader that he just wasn't able to lead. And I think that's reason enough when you have an upgrade available to go ahead and make that upgrade. Why would you want to sabotage your player's value? Look at what the San Francisco 49ers did this past year. They came out and said it. Hey, we're going to move on to Trey Lance next year, but we're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo in and hopefully he balls out so we could trade him for a higher draft pick. And I'm assuming that's what the Cleveland Browns would want to do. Now, yes, they definitely fumbled the bag doing that. They could have definitely gone about it in a different way during the offseason. Now, Baker would go on the YNK podcast and say that he felt disrespected by the Browns because he was told one thing and they completely did another.
I feel disrespected 100%.
I don't think the Deshaun Watson thing was in their plans throughout the whole year. I feel like it was a situation where they decided to put a feeler out to see if they could pull it off. And when they saw they could pull it off, if you could get Deshaun Watson, you freaking get Deshaun Watson. Now, here's the crazy part. Pete Carroll currently says that he does not see the Seattle Seahawks trading for a quarterback before the start of the 2022 season. Why would he? Why would any team trade for Baker Mayfield in this situation? The Carolina Panthers were really close to also trading for Baker Mayfield on draft night, but they backed out because the Cleveland Browns didn't want to agree to pay a portion of Baker Mayfield's $19 million salary. As a result, the Panthers said, okay, this quarterback hasn't really shown us that he could be a superstar in this league. Let's go ahead and just draft a project in the 3rd round that we'd only have to pay $4 to $5 million to develop, as opposed to getting Baker Mayfield to compete with Sam Darnold. Josina Anderson also agrees with this, saying that I spoke to a source from a team that expressed interest in Baker Mayfield, had talks, but they cooled, not wanting to pay asking price, feeling he has to be cut. Their follow-up comment tonight, no one's trying to do the Browns any favors in this situation. Hashtag, this is ridiculous. Josina Anderson continued to say that some things have evolved since the draft and will shed light soon enough on the road and perspective ahead. That being said, I've already tweeted my thoughts on the Browns' leverage. Leverage is a fluid concept. Fortune can change in the blink of an eye and usually favors those who wait. So at this point, it doesn't doesn't seem like the Cleveland Browns want to just flat out release Baker Mayfield. You would want to get something in return for a former #1 overall pick. And according to Ian Rappaport, he said on the Pat McAfee show that he doesn't expect the Cleveland Browns to make a trade involving Baker Mayfield until some point in June. So we're going to keep an eye out on this, but this was so much content that we had to sift through, and it's such an interesting situation, especially the fact that there's some finger pointing going on from Baker Mayfield's camp, accusing the Cleveland Browns of attempting to sabotage their QB. I personally think that's ridiculous. I think there were some moments that were mismanaged, but I don't think it was ever intentional. I feel like if Baker Mayfield wasn't as outspoken about the situation, there may have been a higher chance that he got traded. Yes, there is the argument that if you believe a guy is a franchise QB, you trade for him. It's a no-brainer and you don't wait for him to be released. There is a reason the market isn't there, and it's quite telling. But at the same exact time, Baker Mayfield's value is at an all-time low. I personally don't view him as a quarterback that could elevate a team to a Super Bowl contender. Now, he could definitely prove me right. I mean, he could be a different player a few years down the road from now. But at this exact moment, I don't perceive him as a player that I would trade a second-round pick or a third-round pick for, especially when you look at how loaded the quarterback class is next year. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to enter for a chance to win $500. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.